So, when do you actually become an adult? I mean, it seems like it should be a simple question, right? But our laws give us this messy, confusing collection of dates. In this explainer, we're going to unpack how we went from a single natural sign of maturity to a bureaucratic calendar and what that huge shift really means for us today.
Okay, let's just dive right in by looking at the numbers we all know. These are the numbers that define what it means to be an adult in the modern world. They're super familiar, but when you put them all together, you start to see a real puzzle.
First up, 16. For a lot of us, this is a huge one. You get the keys to the car. It's this incredible moment of freedom, right? The ability to just go. Society suddenly trusts you with a 2-ton machine.
Then, boom, you hit 18. All of a sudden, you can vote. You can help decide the future of the country. You can even enlist to defend it. This is your official entry into what we call civic majority.
But wait, you're still not fully an adult. Not in the eyes of the law, anyway. You gotta wait till you're 21 for other things, like buying alcohol. It's this other later finish line you have to cross.
So here's the big question. Why is maturity sliced and diced into all these different numbers? It feels kind of arbitrary, doesn't it? 16, 18, 21. Was it always this complicated? Well, the short answer is absolutely not. To really get how we ended up here, we have to travel back in time, way back, to a world that measured maturity in a totally different way, a way that had nothing to do with birthdays on a calendar.
And this is the core idea, the flower of youth. It's a beautiful term, isn't it? In the ancient Hebrew, Greek, and Roman worlds, this was the signal, puberty. It wasn't just biology, it was a public event. For a boy, it meant he was ready to train for war or public life. For a girl, it signaled she was ready for marriage, for running a household. You see, adulthood wasn't a birthday. It was a physical and moral state of being. The body itself was the calendar.
This quote from scripture really gets to the heart of it. Childhood was seen as this time of innocence. The shift to adulthood happened when a person's conscience woke up, when you could really tell the difference between right and wrong. And this inner change was seen as happening right alongside the body's physical changes. And this wasn't just one culture's idea. It was a pretty unified worldview. In Hebrew tradition, responsibility started with awareness. In Rome, a young man got his toga virilis, the toga of manhood, when his father decided he was physically ready. And in Rabbinic Judaism, the bar mitzvah at 13 marked the age when a boy was seen as old enough to agree to the covenant and follow the commandments. I mean, just think about that for a second. Your body, your conscience, and your job in society all just clicked into place at the same time. You had childhood and you had adulthood. And that long, drawn-out, in-between phase we call adolescence, it just didn't exist. Okay, so if the ancient world had this really clean, natural system, what happened? How did we get from there to here? Well, a huge shift took place, and it was driven by something pretty mundane: paperwork. This timeline really lays it all out. For most of history, adulthood was a condition. But as nations got bigger and more complex, they needed simple, uniform rules to manage everybody. Then came the Industrial Revolution and the World Wars, and suddenly fixed ages were absolutely critical for factory work, for taxes, and especially for military drafts. It was just so much easier to say everyone over 18 is eligible than to check if each person was individually ready. And just like that, governments swapped out a natural condition for a convenient date on a calendar. And that's really the punchline. These numbers, 16, 18, 21, they don't have some deep, ancient wisdom behind them. They're the product of administrative convenience. Bureaucracy, not the Bible, gave us the age of 18. So this brings us right back to today. In this historical shift from a natural sign to a bureaucratic number, well, it wasn't just a minor tweak. It created this deep paradox right at the center of modern life. Here it is, the central conflict. Our biology? It hasn't changed. People still reach physical maturity, that flower of youth, in their early teens. But our laws now say, nope, you're a dependent child for years after that. This creates a massive gap between what your body is telling you and what your driver's license says you are. And this gap, it has a name: social adolescence. It's this long, modern invention, this limbo where you have an adult body, but you're denied full adult responsibility and freedom. It's the direct result of trading the body's clock for the state's calendar. So what do we do with all this information? Look,
The goal here is not to argue that we should lower the voting age to 13 or something. It's about recovering the timeless wisdom that got lost in translation when we made that bureaucratic trade.
The ancient model was built on a really powerful logic. First, the idea that maturity is holistic. Your body, mind, and spirit all ripen together. Second, that real accountability kicks in when your conscience does, not on a government-mandated birthday. Third, that becoming fertile is a sacred calling, a new chapter, not a crisis to be managed. And finally, that the community plays a huge role in guiding and celebrating these big life changes.
The real challenge for us, for our families, for our communities, is to bring that logic back into our lives. It's about reteaching that deep connection between the natural signs of growing up and the moral responsibilities that come with them, no matter what the law says.
And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. We live in a world run by numbers, but our actual lives are still governed by nature. We've seen how those two systems drifted so far apart. So the question for all of us is, in our own lives, how do we get back to honoring the true, natural measure of what it means to grow up?